Hi everyone, my name is Emil Mattsson and I'm a solution architect on the Dynamics Fast Track team. As you may know, the Fast Track team is managing hundreds of Dynamics projects every year. Some of them are really successful and in some of them we're learning a lot from. But that's actually true for all of our projects. We learn a ton every day, and in this session we want to share some of the more practical tips and tricks that can help you save time and money in your sales implementation projects. Before we continue, there will be a live Q&A at the end of this presentation. For that, feel free to post any questions into the chat window. Looking at what we will cover today, we will cover a number of different areas. We will take a look at the history of CRM projects. What have we always been dealing with? Then we will also continue with some of the learnings about why sellers never share about CRM. What opportunities do you have to turn that adoption around or to turn adoption around? Also, we will take a look at what some of the successful examples are doing in their projects. And finally, is it really only about the product, or are there any other considerations for how to drive the actual project? As mentioned, Fast Track is dealing with hundreds of Dynamics projects every year. Looking back across all CRM projects in history, there's a couple of common themes that justify some emphasis because they're so common and so impactful to adoption and success of the project. First of all, many organizations believe that their requirements and situations are really unique. And they're also hesitant to change the ways of working. The tool being implemented should adapt to the process and not the other way around. Other organizations are equally unique and in equally unique situations. But the same organizations are at the same time selecting a platform approach. Now, this is a classic perception. But it's also a perception that can lead organizations to the wrong decisions. And this perception has many times also been proven wrong. When selecting a platform approach over best of breed, that actually includes challenging and changing the way you might have done things in the past. Many times it also means cutting back on some specific requirements because the value of others being fulfilled is simply greater. Also, Dynamics 365 for Sales is highly influenced by feedback from other customers in the same situation. So very likely another organization have resolved the same problem just in a different way than you might think. But it's also in the end about the change of perception and change of attitude. And this is often being said, but not always followed through. But many times we hear customers say that their number one priority is to stay out of the box, but then doing something completely different. So in terms of thinking about your organization as unique, you're probably not as unique as you might think. And if your organization is that unique, then you likely would have opted to building your own software too. When taking off on a journey with a platform approach as a vehicle, make sure that you are ready to compromise. Review the ways of working and how far you can get with adopting the capabilities being offered from the platform. The next thing that I wanted to touch on is the strive for perfection that makes organizations tailor their apps. You probably recognize this, but all requirements must be met and everyone must be made happy with both the blueprint and the MVP solution. This is equally as common and equally as impactful to projects. Many customers are stating or starting their projects with an ambition to make everyone happy with everything. While this is a beautiful ambition, in life, that's actually rarely the reality for anything. Reality is we're always compromising. But this is causing customers to tailor their apps on very granular levels. Sometimes we've seen customers running into even the limit of how many fields you're allowed to have on a form. We also come across situations where the opportunity form is taking extremely long to load because of the massive form logic running on it. Sometimes customers are squeezing in more than 15 tabs on the form because too many business stakeholders were asking about the same about their own tabs, and no common agreement could be met. This is in the end only causing confusion for the end user and is not helping in achieving the goals that you have set up. If everyone must be happy with a blueprint, then you will likely blueprint forever. It's not very uncommon with the different branches or markets in the same organization arguing and not being able to agree on a common way forward. Usually, the main culprit here is leadership or lack of it. With the right leadership on board and in the room, everyone becomes surprisingly open to collaborating and finding a common way forward. Try this out. Next time you're in this situation, schedule a new meeting and invite the executive sponsors for the project. But also, not segmenting the requirements properly by importance or aiming to meet all of them is also going to be a potential source of delay. We often see customer projects spending oceans of time tailoring their opportunity form to meet all the requirements and to make everyone happy. But on this, we would like to encourage customers and partners to stop, take a step back, look around and what else is being offered from the product. There might actually be things more impactful to the seller, like that cockpit experience or the collaboration capabilities being offered. And that would actually mean more value in the end and less effort being spent implementing. It's surprising to see how many organizations believe that more information granularity will solve the problem, or more complexity added to that logic running that will do the trick. But usually it's the other way around. The simpler the app is, the higher adoption it will see, and the more value from the organization in the end. So something else that has been very common over the years and that has proven to be a great way of generating disaster satisfaction scores is what we have called the dual app strategy. The dual app strategy is when the project is running out of time to deliver the entire scope or not being able to reduce the scope to a more manageable level. And in order to launch something and show results, but at the same time ensure daily operations and reduce disruption, they opt to release a new app that must be used on the side of the old legacy app. You might not believe it, but this is actually more common than you might think. And this will only result in disastrous satisfaction scores and increased friction in adoption if you're lucky to be given another chance. Do avoid this at all costs. Either go live later when you can do a proper cutover, or live with the fact that all the use cases will not be there when launched, but fulfilled in following releases. The history of CRM projects has proven that end user adoption, acceptance, and satisfaction is more important than we might have thought. And the dual app strategy, with asking users to do double work, is working completely against that. We've been talking about the common challenges in implementation projects and some of the attitudes that are still around and impacting the launch of a solution. But the biggest challenge for customers and their sales projects is still on the other side of launch, getting the sellers to adopt and use the application. In Fast Track, we are twice a year running a customer advisory board event to which we're inviting our most innovative customers to meet with product leadership, other customers to discuss success, challenges, and strategies. Adoption challenges and how to make sellers care about CRM is a repeating topic. And in some cases, the sellers are, and we will come back to what's more successful themes here, but in many cases, organizations are still struggling with getting the sellers to like the application they're being asked to spend a lot of time with every day. So why is this? Why does your sellers never cheer about CRM? In this section, we will take a look at some of the learnings coming from larger number of fast track engagements, learnings from customer advisory board events, and also direct user feedback from NSAT surveys. The last one I mentioned is actually really interesting. We are, as you might know, asking our end users randomly how they like Dynamics to get their honest, unfiltered, and naked opinion. This feedback is really useful for us when improving our product, but it's also extremely valuable in understanding how organizations are customizing their apps and what the end users actually think about it. The number one challenge, CRM is being seen as a burden or tax. This is classic. Sellers say entering opportunities into CRM is really painful. They're doing it to comply with the company policy or because they're expected to do so by management. But hey, shouldn't it be easy and even enjoyable to the seller to maintain this information? Would we see more and more accurate data then? The main reasons for it to be so painful are the form is too cluttered and consists of too many fields to enter. This means it requires higher cognitive effort to actually enter all of those details. Sometimes the seller is being asked to enter information required from on the form that the seller doesn't even know or have at hand, which means the opportunity cannot be captured at the time, or the seller is ending up capturing inaccurate information. So what's preventing this information capturing from being useful to the seller is they're rarely seeing value from all of the data they are asked to capture. The critical requirements for the seller are typically very basic. They appreciate keeping track of the opportunity. They appreciate the ability to capture the stakeholders that they are managing and to understand the buying room. They also find it very useful to understand the previous steps taken and the next steps to be taken, to structure and plan the deal, that is. And selling is not actually about running around and running after all and everything. You must carefully select the deals to prioritize and to invest your time in. So getting help in doing this exercise and making this transparent is usually also relevant. But the rest is unfortunately seen as tax. Another very common impression is that sellers are maintaining sales data in CRM for their managers and leadership. If they don't understand the significance or value in, for example, a field that's required, they will automatically assume that it's to support management reporting or a categorization not relevant to them. But also asking sellers to capture information they might not understand the value in or does not see the value themselves from will cause confusion and frustration across your entire sales force and the people that you must convince adopting your solution. Historically, it has been much easier to address manager requirements, and sellers keeping opportunities up to date is great for sales report accuracy and forecasting, but also for managers to report on top accounts and top customer segments. Now, even if it's easier to address manager requirements, organizations will need the adoption from the sales floor to get meaningful data into the system. So it's definitely worth spending the extra effort in understanding what makes the sellers happy with the app and address those requirements. Because with sellers being satisfied with the app, you will see higher adoption and more meaningful data being entered into the app. Imagine what that would do to reporting. Back to the point about tailoring and trying hard to make the app perfect for all use cases. Many times sellers find the sales app way too complicated, too clunky, or too slow. Usually, this is because the organization has tailored the app to a point uh, where there are way too many elements on the form to maintain. Where when there are too many fields on a form, it becomes difficult to structure it properly and to identify the really important pieces of information. All of this usually starts with the information, with the best of intentions from the organization. Let's tailor the app so that all the pieces of information can be captured. Let's wrap it with business logic to help the seller entering the information in the correct way. Let's try to fulfill the seller requirements along with the manager dreams. And in the event where when we bring in engineering, it's getting into the opportunity that must also have fields to enter. Again, this all starts with the best of intentions, but it's usually ending up with the primary three things: cluttered forms, slow forms, and satisfaction on the lower end. Now, selling is increasingly becoming a team sport, and many organizations are rallying entire villages to close a deal. Microsoft is not an exception here, but actually a great example. It's not uncommon that closing a deal involves account teams, specialist sales teams, customer success teams, industry teams, engineering, leadership, business desk, legal, support, delivery services, partners, and sometimes even senior leadership. We are rallying all of these people to build and maintain relationships with the customer, to land value messaging, maintain communication, plan and execute the closing, and to collaborate across the different teams to get all of this done together. The optimal collaboration capabilities are typically found in Office. We use Planner to plan, we use Outlook to communicate, we use PowerPoint to present, we use Excel for a lot of different things, and we use Teams to hold all of the collaboration together. But that also means that we're generating a lot of data, including valuable customer data that is never ending up in CRM. This information is typically staying in the productivity tools that we're using to get the job done. So we have now spent some time talking about the common challenges, pitfalls, and mistakes. But there are many successful customers, so what are they doing to be successful? And this will also touch on a number of key recommendations that the Fast Track team is providing in the many sales engagements that we manage every year. First of all, what is so terribly wrong with our first-party app experiences that causes so many customers to opt for creating their own apps? And with first-party experiences, I'm talking about the Sales Hub app. There's an old impression that for a new Dynamics project, you must create a new app module. There's also a myth that if you go for first-party app experiences and customize that, then Microsoft will override your customizations in every weekly deployment. But I want to take the opportunity to bust this myth. This is, of course, not our model or the intention. And lately, Microsoft has made a ton of investments in making deployment less disruptive. So this shouldn't be an issue today. But actually getting to the point, there are many advantages of using the Sales Hub app. For example, it provides a great start with a good sales app that we have also optimized for sales scenarios and based on feedback from a large number of customers. It will give you improved discoverability of additional and new features. Sales Hub is where we enable these features. We can't enable them in your custom apps. Second, when you want to enable a new innovative capability like predictive scoring as an example, or digital selling, you won't actually need to spend any time customizing this if you're using Sales Hub. You just flip a switch. And Microsoft is investing in testing of the app, including performance-related tests. By creating your own app, you're disregarding all of these investments and assuming that responsibility yourself. Bottom line is, do evaluate Sales Hub first for your sellers before starting to create your own experience. One thing that we want to call out as part of the list of important success criteria is using the product elements for what they're intended. This might sound obvious to you, but we're getting involved in many situations where someone is trying to fit a square shape through a round hole. Surprisingly, in sales, much of this is centered around the lead to opportunity process and the opportunity journey. While we're aware that we have some opportunities for product improvement, we also want to share some do's and don'ts that can help you stay on track here. We've come across customers refusing to change the out-of-the-box sales process flow because they believe that it's how Dynamics works and it can't be changed. This is a misconception that we want to clear out. You can and you should, of course, adjust the sales business process flow according to your organization's sales process. But we're also seeing customers in implementation projects simply recreating the same process and application that they were using in their legacy platform, but on Dynamics. Sometimes even including the limitations that the old app put on the process. So the recommendation here is, please do take the time to understand Dynamics when migrating and use the product components for what they are intended and take the opportunity to rethink your sales process. But also, please don't use the sales process to drive activity. In sales, there are a lot of activity going on, and trying to capture all of that into the sales process will make it too complex. Do use the sales business process flow for guiding the seller through the sales process and with focus on milestones and outcome rather than activity. For driving activity, we recommend using sequences for which intention is to actually drive activity. Sequences are also an area that's seeing big investments right now from Microsoft, so much better leveraging that. The last thing that I wanted to call out here is, please don't start by inventing and creating your own complex deal scoring logic. It seems creating rule-based mechanisms for this is very tempting because it's very common out there. But do instead consider predictive scoring. It's going to look at the history of your data and identify what's influential for both successful and unsuccessful deals. It might even identify patterns and circumstances that you were not even aware of before and therefore couldn't include in rule-based logic. There are naturally more examples here, but these are some of the considerations that we wanted to specifically call out. Another thing customers have seen a lot of success with and also shared a good amount of really positive feedback around is the ability to automate the process from lead acquisition to lead qualification. Or for that matter, the process from opportunity capture to close, as it would involve actually the same components. The idea is when the lead is captured either from acquisition or generated from marketing or through AI generation based on intent, the lead is created and automatically scored, taking information about the potential customer, industry, product interest, timelines, and other important elements into account. This is handled by predictive scoring, which is part of our premium offering, and it helps the seller effectively prioritize the right deals and understand what pieces of information are missing to understand how to prioritize it. Second, using fuzzy logic, we can today, with better accuracy, highlight duplicate leads and quickly manage the duplicates properly. This will help sellers reduce overlapping work and also improve the experience for your customers not being contacted multiple times. The lead is then assigned to the right seller with the right skills in the right geography with availability and capacity. And this is happening automatically based on assignment rules so that your sales ops teams can spend their time on more qualified things than distributing leads across your organization. Now, based on the characteristics of the lead, a sequence is automatically connected to it. A sequence is an engagement model or a sales cadence defined by the organization and can be different based on the type of lead, the industry, the product interest, or the customer segment. This will help your sellers understand the next best action, forget about forgetting, and also help managers understand better how the organization is progressing with its pipeline. Lastly, sellers are equipped with the Sales Accelerator workspace where existing and new sales transactions and their required sales interactions are made visible when relevant. From this workspace, the seller will understand what's in focus for today, what's next, and have all the required pieces of information at her fingertips. Also, from this experience, the seller can immediately reach out to the customer through Teams dialer, jump into a scheduled Teams meeting, and send emails. And if it's a call or a meeting, conversation intelligence can record and analyze the meeting so that the seller can actually focus more on building the relationship than on taking notes. And back to the point about rallying villages to close deals. Do consider enabling the multiplayer capabilities offered in Dynamics. Teams embedded chat makes it so much easier for your sellers to quickly reach out to the account team, business desk, or managers in context of that important opportunity. If you're looking to drive contextual conversations on a Dynamics record, this is definitely the best vehicle for doing so. When more extensive collaboration is required, meaning richer conversations, content collaboration, planning, etc., you should look into Teams channel integration. This allows you to create, for example, account teams in Teams connected to the account in Dynamics and manage channels in that team connected with the opportunities or even escalation war rooms. Now, do be aware, this capability will soon evolve in the direction of deal rooms in Viva Sales. So if you haven't looked into Viva Sales yet and you need a way to enable sales collaboration, this should be extremely relevant for you. Lastly, one thing that's super relevant for any CRM user is sharing records over chat. It doesn't really matter if it's an opportunity, a customer service case, or a contact record. Don't miss the ability for Dynamics links pasted into Teams chats, unfurling into actionable objects that can also be interacted with. This will help sellers to stay focused and productive as they can avoid switching apps. But is it all about technology, or are there important considerations on top of the solution for landing a well-adopted sales solution? In spring 2020, Siemens Mobility made the decision to innovate their CRM strategy and to move from the legacy CRM system and onto a new future with Dynamics. The challenge was, because of many reasons, they only had 5 months to do so. And as you can imagine, that did put strong requirements on how the implementation project was managed. And this is actually a good example of a project that considered all of the elements that we have touched on during this presentation. Siemens only accepted the critical requirements into the scope of the project. They made every person on board think twice about if a requirement was really critical to get the job done. They assumed a very focused, out-of-the-box first approach, considered closely what the product was offering out of the box before considering a customization. They always had executive sponsorship and strong leadership on board and close to the project during the 5 months. If there was a disagreement, if there was need for prioritization, if there was lack of alignment, the solution was only 5 minutes away. Despite their very limited scope, Siemens were also able to co-innovate with Microsoft on the new pipeline view experience and really helped influencing the direction of this product. And after the first go live, they followed up quickly with frequent releases, with half addressing user feedback and the other half new innovation. Now, you might think going live with only bare minimum requirements and in extremely limited amounts of times cause concerns in the business, but it's actually the other way around. They went live with only big smiles from their business. In fact, they were so happy they made a word cloud with all of the positive feedback from the go live. So this is proof of keeping it simple is the recipe for success. And feel free to read more about this in the full story that we have published online. But something successful customers are doing really well that is not directly related to technology is change management. The advice here is do take this seriously and make the proper investments into change management. Do assign someone or even a team of diverse people who are responsible for driving change and adoption in your organization. This role should take care of the feedback loop with end users, end user training, communication, and adoption. This shouldn't be present only with your initial go live, but also when you're adding new workloads, making significant changes to a process, or adopting Microsoft release waves. So are there investments that are more effective than others? We certainly believe so. Adopting new capabilities with clear benefit to the seller. This might be that new pipeline view, the focus view, Teams embedded chat, or sales accelerator. Remember, many of these capabilities doesn't actually require much effort to implement, nor a ton of training for sellers to adopt. But also, any investment in making a process simpler, quicker, or more intelligent is typically appreciated. So simplify, simplify, simplify. But also making steps or results more transparent to the seller or reduce the number of available options are typically appreciated and effective investments. Don't complicate things. So I've been talking a lot about common challenges, mistakes, some really good examples of things successful customers are doing, and what to think about around your projects. But I wanted to leave you with some key takeaways. One, stop complicating things. Regardless if you want to speed up your project or achieve better adoption, making things simpler and easier is one of the things that you will see successful outcome from. Also, please use the product for what it's intended. Rather spend more time researching before you implement and find the best path forward. Ask your Microsoft representatives for a connection with other customers or read customer stories online to learn how others have created their solutions. And lastly, do pay close attention to the release wave content. Try out these new capabilities and invest in understanding how they can make you successful. And with that, I want to say thanks for listening. I hope this was time well spent. And we hope that you will consider some of these recommendations and wish you good luck in your sales projects.